If ASEAN were one nation or one block of nations like the EU, ASEAN would be a world superpower. Trillions in GDP, 700 million people, a huge manufacturing hub, the largest shipping region, every natural resource you can think of, and much, much more. But ASEAN still faces many issues, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Hello everyone, it's AseanAnthony, and in this video, ASEAN, one nation, undivided. We're going to talk about the issues in these ASEAN countries. First, we're going to start with Indonesia. Indonesia right now is going through a currency crisis. The currency in Indonesia is called the rupiah. Now, I know the people in Indonesia seem to think that the currency crisis is just because of bad leadership. We have a leader in Prabowo in Indonesia that says things like villagers don't use dollars. That's not true. Villagers don't have dollars, but villagers do use dollars. They need electricity, they need gas, etc., etc. But actually, that's not the entire truth. The biggest reason for the Indonesian currency crisis is the strong US dollar. The US has done two things. First, the US economy is growing. And the consumer spending is at all-time highs. Unemployment is at 4.3%. The GDP is expected to grow, et cetera, et cetera. But also what happened is in America, we forced an artificial dollar demand surge because of this Iran war, okay? I don't want to go into many details because we already know about it, but basically this Iran war is creating a need for dollars because people are panicking about petroleum, okay? That's for another video. But what is Indonesia doing about this? They're making the problem worse by printing more rupiah. Not good, not good. Next, let's talk about Singapore. Now, Singapore is the most successful ASEAN country, but the cost of living in Singapore is outrageous, such that you have about 400,000 people that have to commute from Singapore from Malaysia because they just cannot afford to live in Singapore, even if they're upper middle class. Okay, there are many problems in Singapore, but that just seems to be the big stick out problem to me. Let's talk about Thailand. Thailand is the biggest disappointment to me. They're going in the wrong direction in almost every way. They're being very predatory with their neighbor Cambodia. Yes, I said it, Thailand is being the bully. The economy is going down. Their demographics are bad. Even their tourism is starting to sink. I don't even know where to begin with Thailand. I am disappointed with Thailand. It is a country I love the most, but the leadership there needs to change. Unfortunately, there's so much corruption in the leadership there, it's unlikely to change. Vietnam, let's talk about Vietnam. Vietnam is the big success story out of ASEAN. It is the country that it's like the princess of ASEAN because they are becoming a manufacturing giant. The problem with Vietnam is AI is going to take away the need for for Vietnam being a manufacturing hub, because the type of manufacturing Vietnam does is the low value added manufacturing. These are jobs that are easily replicated by robots. So they should not put all of their eggs into manufacturing because they are going to need to find different ways to innovate, because the future does not look pretty for Vietnam if they stay on the low value added manufacturing chain. Not good. But right now, Vietnam is doing fantastic. Malaysia. Now, Malaysia is also like the second princess of ASEAN. They are doing well, mostly because of their Singaporean neighbors. But Malaysia faces something called a middle income trap. This is basically a reference to the fact that people move from the farms to cities to take better jobs. A lot of these jobs are labor intensive, and a lot of investors invest in places like Malaysia because of cheap labor. But what happens is, after years go by, the cheap labor isn't so cheap anymore because the workers demand better wages. And as the workers demand better wages, the cost of labor goes up. This means less investment. So the only way to get out of this middle income trap is innovation. Unfortunately, all the innovation is going to Singapore, not Malaysia, okay? And that is a problem. The Philippines. Now, the Philippines is just crazy, okay? They have probably the most toxic political climate in maybe even the world. Watching their politics is like watching a sitcom, okay? I love it. It is is like the WWE. There's so much going on. Those people, the teams out there really don't like each other. But the problem with the Philippines really isn't the political climate. It's the fact that they haven't created enough jobs for their young population. They have a young, thriving demographic in the Philippines, which is good. But a lot of the people there are leaving because the government is not providing enough opportunity for them. This is causing brain drain. This is causing and the brain drain leads to a lack of innovation. And because the Philippines isn't physically connected to the other ASEAN nations, they need to keep their population within their border, or they will not have a bright future. Now, there's lots of other things I could talk about with these countries, and there are countries that I didn't mention, like Cambodia and Laos. But I say all that to say this. All the problems I just described are fixable, even in Thailand. And you don't need to fix all of these problems to congeal together as one nation. We are better together. We are stronger and more powerful together. Imagine if ASEAN treated its brothers and sisters the way the EU treats its brothers and sisters, the way the States in America treats its neighbors. We would be impenetrable, impregnable. We would be unstoppable. And that is the future of ASEAN if we want to see maximum prosperity.